Welcome back. In this session, I'm working on Trucker the dog. So, his dark part of his coat is going to be ivory black. And I also add a little bit of white into that for the highlights. And my background is still wet, so I can soften these edges. He's got kind of a thick coat, so we can make that like that hair kind of comes up there. That. And I want his hindquarters to be a little softer, the edge of that, so that it goes back behind this rock. Soft edges recede, hard edges come forward. So we want that. We want his back end to go back behind that rock. His markings come up here on his shoulder. And now here I'm going to let a little blue just come onto his side here where it meets up to that rock. That just coolness makes it round, makes his barrel round. I'll bring all that black down. That just makes that turn a little bit. He's a little older dog, so in his white markings he's got some darker spots and things, but right now I'm just going to get the light and shadow pattern established. I went ahead and painted his chin when I did the background of the blue bonnets back there. So I just really wanted to make sure that I had that right and get that edge soft. And his chin, I've used a mixture of white plus a little bit of ultramarine blue and just a touch of mud. And this, again, I want this fur to be soft on his neck, so I can just soften that into the background. And I bring some of that white and ultramarine blue down into this shadow. Now I will paint that water behind him later. And there's going to be light hitting that water, so that will accentuate the dark on his shoulder. This is some mixes of my white plus a little bit of mud. And I let some of even my brush pick up some of that ivory black into the junction there of his markings into the white. See, with that long hair, the demarcation is just not real hard. And his white goes around his shoulder. Now I'm going to take this again is my ivory black. I want to make around the side of his head. And then his neck here is going to be a little bit lighter because the sun's coming in from the left. So he's going to be a little bit lighter here. Bring some of that dark. I don't have a picture of him in this exact angle, so I'm kind of looking at the markings from the angles that I have, and I think this is how this dark comes on his neck. The side of his muzzle here is, he's got some gray coming up here into his, that black. Probably when he was younger he didn't have that gray, but I'm going to just bring some gray down into his muzzle. And then the front of his muzzle is really catching the light here. So we let this catch the top of his nose there. And the black part on his, around his lips, he's just reaching up to sniff noses with Royal. This comes thicker here, makes him almost look like he's smiling. I read something interesting the other day for those of you who have cats and who have dogs. People say that, you know, cats are kind of psychopathic. They don't show any expression. They look at you with just this kind of blank stare. I thought it was interesting. The article said that cats do not have the muscles of facial expression that people and dogs have. Dogs have a lot of the same facial muscles that we have, and so they actually are able to mimic a lot of our expressions, whereas cats just aren't able to do that. So I thought that was fascinating. Now, who knows if that's true or not? You have to, you know, on the internet, you're never totally sure if something is completely true, but it made sense to me. So there's the sun hitting his muzzle there. And then his leg. Going to get a little sun on his leg here. His paw comes down. Now this other leg is going to be darker because it's in shadow. The white's in shadow. That's almost too dark, but I can come back and lighten that a little bit. And that leg is, we're not going to have much detail in it because it's back, it's actually just kind of falling on the other side of this rock, this big ledge rock, and I'll just bring that rock right out here. Take a little bit of my mud and darken this, so that rock will be darker under here. So his leg comes, and then his paw there. Now this paw is, again, he's going to be, this is in the sun, but this front part of his paw is a little bit in shadow. And then the pads on his toes. Comes up like so. He's going to get a little highlight here. On this, catch this, those toes. Now I want to work on his ear. And his ears flop over. So he's going to be darker here. I want that to be really dark underneath. Top of his head. I don't want to mess up my sketch of my eye there. Now this ear catches some light as it flops over. Now the tip of his ear we're going to make darker so we can see it from distinguish it from the background here. But I made the bluebonnet foliage back there lighter so that you'd see his ear. If that had been dark, you wouldn't see his head or his ears. So a lot of this is planning ahead. He has, that white goes up over his forehead there, and then this is a little bit lighter here. Now his eye, I'm going to just total eye in here with my mud. And then we take a little bit, this is really little, so hopefully I can get this the first time. Sun is coming from the upper left into the painting. So we're going to have a catch light at the top of his eye. Let's make his upper lid here. This will be easier to. And he actually has a little gray on his upper lid, which is nice. In fact, I'm going to make that a little bit lighter. I may have to come back and darken this, but this kind of helps me see where his eye is. And he's got some lighter underneath. In fact, he even has some light that comes down from the corner of his eye. He's got some gray in here in his fur, which is good. That helps show his eye. That works out really good. Now, we're going to have a catch light just up under his lid. I brace against the unpainted part of the canvas just to steady my hand as I do this. And hold my breath. Okay, so we've got our catch light in there. Now his eyes are brown. So we're going to have the iris showing. And I've got the iris a little bit too big because I want him, right now he's looking up this way and we want him looking at Royal. So I move his pupil down. And this again is my mud plus liquid. There we go. Now I'm going to just lighten this brown just a tiny, tiny bit, just so we can see it better. And this is really tiny, but we need to have this in here. Okay, so we get a little bit of light right there. And now I've got to get just a little bit more. And now I've got to do his pupil again. This is something this small, it's back and forth. I have to work back and forth, but now I want to make his pupil to where he's looking up at Royal. And there's his eye. Now I'm going to accentuate this little gray on his eyebrow. And then he's got some kind of freckles in his coat. And again, I'm not matching them exactly freckle for freckle, but we want to get the feel of him. He looks like he's a sweet puppy. Now that's too dark, so I want to come back and just bring some white in here. Just highlight his muzzle here. A little more white. I want that bright white so that that really comes forward. And then I'll put a little bit of my pure white back here on his shoulder there, where it comes around, just because the sunlight's hitting him there. And then his coat, his black coat, is also going to have a little highlight in here where the sun's really hitting it. And there is Trucker. I really appreciate you watching my YouTube videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Also visit my blog. The link is in the description below. It's also on the final frame of the video. In my blog, I show the complete step-by-step process of this painting, as well as others that I do. So please visit. You can also sign up to get an email subscription. You'll receive an email every time I make a post. So you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and just be an encourager. Help somebody out. Just pass it forward. So have a great day, and thank you again.